What's up, Weekend Warriors? Welcome to the Week 10 edition of the show. Usually I'm pacing around the room and just, moving around, moving and shaking. I just figured I'd take a load off today. I got a new chair in the office and said, why don't you cozy up next to Mr. Rogers here and I'll tell you a story. So, welcome to the Week 10 edition of the show. Today is Thursday, late in the day, and yes, the breaking news. Odell Beckham Jr. is a Ram. And it just seems like every day there's breaking news in the NFL. This person's got COVID, that person's injured in practice, there's a trade, this guy's released, whatever. Today it's Beckham. And I've been having discussions already. Credit to Kevin Lawson, first one to text me, OBJ the Rams, WTF. Then Pearson's text rolls in. He hates football. Tells me Kupp's going to go down in stock. Wood's going to go down in stock. I disagree. I told him, respectfully, sir. I think Kupp's fine. He's the slot guy, and they work him around. They put him everywhere. Stafford loves him. Maybe he'll see like 3 to 5% less targets at most. He'll be fine. Woods, I would be concerned a little bit about. Dean has him in our league. My take on it is he could eat into him a little bit more than Van Jefferson would. But listen, good for Stafford, good for Burt. Also probably bad for Higbee. Maybe some other pieces of that offense, like the ancillary pieces. But all in all, I'm not concerned. Kupp is the least of my problems. I got way other big problems. But it is interesting, a big name like Beckham trying to get a ring in L.A., so we'll see what happens. Big news to report from last week. I had always said I've gone 3-2 or 2-3 in every week. Last week, the Turnersville Sportsbook went 4-1. Not only were we 4-1 in our picks to bring us to 25-18 for the year. So if I pick you to win on this pod, you got about a 60% chance of winning. It's just math, guys. I also was 1-1 in my NFL picks. Had the Colts minus 10.5, about 80 points in that game on Thursday night. Seems like a year ago that game happened. And then I had Raiders minus 3 against the Giants. Most upsets, I think, in the league all of the season this past week, with the Cowboys losing, the Saints losing, just a lot of tight games, and the Bills. I can figure out the Bills losing. So Raiders also lost to the Giants, and that pick was wrong. So 1-1, I'm 6-12 on the season. Yikes for my picks. But let's see how I got to that 4-1 record. I said Terry was going to beat Brett. He did, and it was the craziest game of the week. I think I made it my game of the week, matchup of the week, and it came down to Deontay Johnson versus Najee Harris. Brett had a small deficit. He shrunk that deficit, actually took the lead on the first drive when Najee scored, and then Brett has had some bad Monday night and luck. Actually, last week it was Sunday night when Amari Cooper saved the season for Pearson, and then he proceeded to get enough points from Shepard to beat Brett in late heroic action. And now Brett loses to Terry with a long 20-yard catch by Deontay Johnson on the last drive. So Terry, 7-2 with a win over Brett. Otley over Chris. That was the one I got wrong. Chris, the high score of the week, $25. Congratulations, Chris. You're never out of it. And with the muddiness here in the middle of the standings, Chris, Pearson, and Valone are all... Pearson and Valone are 2 games out of a playoff spot. I'm sorry. Chris is 3 games out of a playoff spot, but Chris may have had the upper hand because he has more points than those guys. And if it comes tiebreakers become a thing, Chris is there. So it's not over. And Valone and Pearson are playing each other this week, so one of them has to win. So it's getting interesting, and we'll get into it. But Brett plays Otley, and those are 2 of those middling teams. So if one of those teams were to lose, well, obviously one of them's going to lose. But if Brett loses, you got even more parity. So it's going to get interesting these last 6 weeks. Continuing the recap, I had Dean over Pearson. That happened. Pearson scored like 60 points. I had Jake over Kevin. That happened. Kev scored about 80, 90. Jake took care of business. And I beat Valone, speaking of another team that scored about 60 points. My beat-up squad, my running backs, the island of misfit running backs. If you go look at my team, they're atrocious. 4-1 on the week for this Turnersville Sportsbook. So 3 teams at 7-2. Myself, Terry, and Jake, 2 of those teams playing each other this week. Little spotlight foreshadowing on what may be the matchup of the week here going forward. But jumping into the matchups this week, one thing that was interesting to note before we jump into the matchups was that the fab spending this week was pretty low. I think the most somebody spent was $6. So a down week for pickups. Pearson's upset that I got Ingram when he needed some insurance for Kamara. But I need running backs, dude. Look at my team. I need running backs. So we'll see what happens. Jumping into the matchups, we're going to start with the one I alluded to earlier, balls deep versus teabag you. So the interesting thing about the matchups this week, this is who you played in week 1. So jumping back and rewinding to week 1, balls deep, Pearson. Second in the league in points, beat Valone 148 to 119. We thought Pearson was back on top. He's faced some adversity since then, but it's a chance for Valone, who started out struggling this season, to rivalry week beat Pearson and pay him back. He's going to have a good chance to do so. I mentioned Kamara. If Kamara does not play, it's going to be big trouble for Pearson, because then he'll have to try. He could start a combination of either Darrell Williams or Clyde. And then from there, he's got either Carlos Hyde, Ramondre Stevenson, he's got a headache, Ty Johnson, and Eno Benjamin. It's going to be tough for him to find an RB2. He also, as of now, he's got 2 solid receivers in Cooper and Brown, but then Beasley and Peoples-Jones obviously a little weak. Pearson also does not have a kicker as of this reporting. But flipping the script, Valone doesn't have a running back 2 in his lineup as of this reporting. He lost Chase Edmonds last week. That was a big reason why I was able to win. He does have T. Higgins on bye week, which hurts him, but he gets McLaurin back from bye. Judy's looked better. Debo's fine, and maybe gets DeAndre Hopkins back this week. So, and Dak, bounce back game at home against Atlanta. I got to take Valone, I think, with the uncertainty of Kamara. Kamara's projected 15 points in Pearson's lineup, and if he loses that and has to replace it with a guy that's going to score probably less than half that, I think I'm going to leave Valone. If Kamara plays, maybe it's different. But I'm taking T-Baggett over Pearson. Pearson, he keeps saying he's down and out. He's going to keep fighting. I know he will. And I see him very active on the wire. Maybe we can get things turned around. It's a big week for both these teams. I think the winner has a shot. I think the loser is in big trouble. So we'll see what happens. Valone over Pearson here in week 10. Moving on to the next matchup, and this is close to a matchup of the week. It's a big week for both teams. It's Terry versus Dean. Dean, big, much-needed win last week to stay in the thick of it. Terry, he's now won 2 in a row after a loss. The app says he has a 99% chance of making the playoffs. He has a very good team. And Dean at 4-5 could be a huge win for him, especially with the 2 guys above him, Ott and Brett, playing against each other. So, interesting to say the least. If you look at the week 1 schedule when these 2 teams played, it's easy to see that the end of the Harding Curse actually came up with a W over Terry. And then Terry went on a winning streak. So it'll be interesting to see if Terry can get some revenge here. I think Josh Allen's in a huge bounce back spot for Terry against the Jets. This whole cover 2, everybody's saying cover 2 is stopping Mahomes and Allen. It's funny. Dean has Mahomes and Terry has Allen. McCaffrey with Cam Newton coming into town. P.J. Walker's going to be the starter. So McCaffrey at Arizona, not a great matchup for him. But Dean, best running backs in the league next to Chris, probably right now, especially with the Chubb situation and COVID. Connor, been great all season. He's the running back 10 on the year. Steps into a full-time locked and loaded RB1 chance here with Edmonds out. So that'll be interesting here. But Terry, I keep saying for the past 3 or 4 weeks he has the best team. Allen in a bounce-back spot. Jonathan Taylor at home against Jacksonville. Jonathan Taylor, if he drafted today, would be the number 1 running back off the board. I truly believe that. Cordero Patterson, the running back 7 on the season. That was Terry's weak spot. He filled the gap there. And Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Deontay Johnson, just really, really, really strong options at wide receiver. I'd be a fool to take Dean. I think he has a very good chance to win this week. He'd have to have Mahomes play like Mahomes. He can do that on Sunday Night Football. I'm taking Terry. It's chalky. I like it. I think Terry rolls here to a win in Week 10. Moving on to the next matchup. Talk about somebody on a skid. Kevin Lawson, 5 in a row. Started out very hot. Obviously, he beat Chris in Week 1. We don't have to rewind to that. matchup. Chris obviously started off with a very poor record. So can Chris get into a little bit of rhythm? Well, Kev's got the reinforcements coming back on bye. He's got DeAndre Swift coming back from bye. He's got Aaron Jones, was in a bad spot last week in a bounce-back matchup this week against Seattle with Aaron Rodgers back. He's got Mike Evans back from bye, and he might be the only wide receiver left because Godwin's injured and Antonio Brown's still in a walking boot. He's definitely not going to play. Justin Jefferson in a bounce-back spot. They said they got to get him more targets. Oh, and by the way, Knox is back, and D'Ernest Johnson, talk about the last man standing. Kev might have D'Ernest Johnson there by himself, and Chris has Chubb, who will probably be out. So that puts Chris in a tough spot because he has Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase on bye, Mooney's out on bye, Claypool's injured, Chubb's probably out. Chris struggling to put in a lineup at this point. Things were looking up after his win and high score of the week last week. Can he keep the momentum? He needs a miracle. Chris, look for a rabbit. Might be in your pants. Take a peek. I'm taking Kev to get back on track and make the playoff race very interesting with his fourth win. Moving on to the next matchup. Another matchup of the week runner-up candidate, Brett versus Ott. We talked about Brett and some of his struggles lately. Otley also struggling as of late. Brett beat Otley 142-83, a butt whooping in week one. Can Otley get revenge? Otley has lost 3 in a row. Brett has lost 2 in a row, and Otley texted me, man, I need a win bad. And he's getting Rodgers back. Dalvin Cook in a good spot against the Chargers defense is struggling. Some legal stuff that came out about Cook, but it's real muddy. Not going to get into that. No idea what's going to happen. DJ Moore, going to be tough for him with P.J. Walker throwing the ball. Mike Williams, he was great to start the season, struggling a little bit. Can he bounce back? Same thing for Kelsey. You know, Brett, Najee, and Zeke, 2 top 5 guys, we talk about it every week. Both of those guys, they don't put up huge numbers. They're just consistent. And that's good at the wide receiver position. The running back position. At the wide receiver position, Brett traded to acquire Antonio Brown. Thought he'd have him this week. Doesn't. Lockett having Russell Wilson back is a huge upgrade for him. But he is still starting Marvin Jones, who is a wild card. Otley told me, please do not pick me to win this week. I'm not. I'm going to take Brett to beat Otley here. I think Stafford, Monday Night Football, Brett will be down going into Monday night, and I think this time he actually pulls it out in prime time. I'm going Keenan and L over Otley here in Week 10. Before I get into the matchup of the week, 2 quick things. Thursday Night Football pick. Miami Dolphins suck. The Ravens play people tough. I'm taking the Dolphins plus 7.5. I didn't have it on my card. I'm writing it down now. I left it blank because I didn't know what I was going to pick. I think it's a high-scoring game, kind of like the over. Taking the Dolphins to keep it close. They lose, but by less than a touchdown. So if you're smart, you'll take the Ravens and win in a blowout. Dolphins plus 7.5. Then my pick, I was looking around. I like a lot of picks this week, which scares me. But I'm taking over 49 in the Rams-49ers game. That's total's probably going to go up. But it's a sign. The 49ers, the over's 49. I love the over. I'm taking the over in that game. Book it, as they say. So that brings me to the matchup of the week. Myself versus my brother, 2 Hardings, and both 7-2. My team on the decline. Jake's on the rise. He texted me, can you really, in good faith, pick yourself to win? Look at your team, all this stuff. Man, he's talking smack. When he's on the show, he doesn't talk smack, but he's talking smack via text. Jake has won 5 in a row, and he made me aware of that. Now, last week, my team looked like crap. It looked bad, and I pulled out a win over Valone. Now I get Brady back. However, I also get Godwin back. He's injured. I will say, if Godwin does not play, it is a huge uphill battle for me. But my team is looking better, good at the wide receiver position. You got Kupp, said I wasn't worried about him. Godwin, if he misses a week, he should be back. Sanders, I also got Kittle from Jake, and he looked good. Part of the reason I made that trade, Gibson at home again, or at home, it doesn't matter. On the moon versus the Buccaneers, it's a bad matchup. I said Kittle Monday night against the Rams is a good matchup. Maybe that trade might help me in the long term. Definitely helps me this week versus Jake. So could Kittle on Monday night and Ayuk, a nice sneaky pickup by me on Monday night, make the difference. I beat Jake in week 1. I'm planning on beating him again. How Jake can beat me, it's very simple. It's got Lamar Jackson, Myles Gaskin, Mike Gesicki, all tonight. It's Thursday Night Blues for Tyler. Lamar Jackson should have a nice week. I mean, he's playing the freaking Dolphins. And Fournette against the Washington. Adams with Rodgers back. Diggs against the Jets. James Robinson healthy. Jake's favored to win. He should be, but you're going down. The source is going to prevail. Guys, good luck in week 10. The commission's out.